Catalyst, a Rogue One novel, is a new Disney canon novel story that takes place way prior to Rogue One, the movie, and its Rogue One novelization. And it takes place during from 22 BBY to 17 BBY, dating from the Clone Wars era to all the way up to the early years of the Galactic Empire, and how it's transitioned from going from the whole going from the early stages of the Clone Wars all the way up to the Galactic Empire's formation and about a year or so afterwards, and how it transitions between the Republic and the Separatist fighting to where the Republic is trying to build their own battle station, and the Separatists are supposedly building their own battle station as well as an attempt to win the war. And the main characters in the story are Orson Krennic, Galen Erso, Lyra Erso, and everyone's favorite dastardly slimeball, Tardigan. Now, this is a more political-like novel, and okay, I'll get to the most popular phrasing of this next word, but this focuses on the development and subsequent building of this Death Star for the most part. Like, we know that Rogue One talks about how, well, Galen Erso had to build the Death Star by force, but ultimately he chose to do it because he had a weakness. So basically, Episode 4 can be labeled Galen's Revenge. And this goes in detail about the three main characters, and Tarkin as well, of Rogue One. Well, except for one, she dies at the beginning, which begs the question. Like, I was a little surprised they gave her such a big role. Like, I got why, but I was thinking to myself, what did she do that got her killed? Like, she was killed so easily and wasn't really treated as importance. But I knew that the books and audiobooks would explain this. But I have a feeling that she had some big role in this. But, yeah, Krennic and her don't really get along. Let's just say that. And Orson Krennic goes ahead and since Galen Erso is a neutralist who doesn't want to be part of the war, doesn't want to be on both sides, he's a kyber energy researcher of kyber crystals who's trying to find a way to create renewable energy source for kyber crystals that the Jedi have used. And they indirectly mention characters from the Star Wars universe, like they barely mention. In fact, there's not really any Force users in this story. Like, Dooku's mentioned, Mace Windu is indirectly mentioned, Obi-Wan's indirectly mentioned, and not even Darth Vader shows up in this. They mention him, but they don't really they don't really show him. Saw Gerrera is in this, and I keep wondering why Saw Gerrera is the main focal point and everything now. Like, I get why, but at the same time I thought, you could just switch this with Ahsoka. Like, I get why Ahsoka would not probably be doing this, but Ahsoka could have been in Saw Gerrera's role, though of course she would have died in Rogue One, so that would have sucked. Because, well, yeah, it's Ahsoka. No one wants to see her go out like that. And yeah, this focuses more on political, technological aspects of how the Death Star's construction is made, how it's made through manipulation, deception, lies, how Krennic basically manipulated and subtly tricked Galen to go ahead and construct the Death Star's weaponry, since he was working on kyber crystals and they needed kyber crystals to build the Death Star, so we gotta do this. And the Urso family is deeply in Krennic's debt because of how they're rescued from Krennic's Krennic rescued them from separatist kidnappers. So of course, when you look at it, they weren't really kidnapped, or they were initially, but then they got along with them. And I loved how they started to give the guys some form of humanity. Like, Krennic is a scumbag, Tarkin is Tarkin, but you felt for Galen how he thought he was doing the right thing. Like, there's always the concept of the greater good going on, and how everything happens for a reason, I think. But Yeah, it was fairly interesting. It was a good it was a good way to set things up for Rogue One. You don't really, in my opinion, you don't really need to. They could just explain it a little bit in the movie, like, oh, by the way, I was tricked into building the Death Star. Okay, so yeah, I really did like this novel. I listened to the audiobook version for it, which I'll get into in a minute, but yeah, uh, the technological aspect, I just thought science mumbo jumbo. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Like, I don't even know what the heck they were saying. Like, the only thing I got was that kyber crystals plus Death Star equals super laser. Yeah, that was the best thing to describe it. And also, I did like some of the talking scenes between Krennic and Poggle the Lesser. Because, well, in the Clone Wars series, they never really mention what happened to Poggle. Like, he gets arrested, and yeah, that's it. And in Legends canon, they explain a little bit what happened. I think the best case scenario was that he was held prisoner and then escaped during the Battle of Coruscant, which happens in this one, in the new Disney canon as well. But yeah, at the same time, like, I'm thinking to myself, wait, how did Poggle get convinced to do this? Like, he keeps saying that Separatists aren't building a super weapon because, honestly, even though they had designs of the ultimate weapon, which would lead to the eventual creation of the Death Star, they went ahead and basically enslaved Geonosians to build the Death Star for them, and then when they revolted during the Battle of Coruscant, uh, yeah. So Supreme Chancellor presented it to the Republic's strategic advisory cell shortly after the battle of the Second Battle of Geonosis, and Krennic convinced Poggle the Lesser to build it for him. And we also get Tarkin and Krennic to interact one another. Like, they're trying, like, you got Krennic using the Ursos to build the super weapon laser, and you got Tarkin trying to undermine Krennic because Tarkin and Krennic hate each other with a passion. You know, I don't think they. I'm trying to recall. Did they ever explain why Krennic and Tarkin hate each other? Like, what? How did it all start? I would love to know. Like, I get why they're hating each other. They want to gain the Emperor's good graces. In fact, Krennic is that. Like, there was an interview, like, I said this in the Rogue One video, but, like, Krennic is that guy who wants to be at the cool kids table. He wants to hang out with the Emperor, with Tarkin, with Darth Vader, with Thrawn. He wants to hang out with the cool kids. He doesn't want to be in these loser sections in his eyes. He wants to be with the cool kids. Except one's a screaming psychopath who yearns about ultimate unlimited power. One's a tragic character who has a huge backstory of a Jedi and ultimately yearns to die but wants to be punished by life itself. Tarkin is Tarkin, and Thrawn is the only one that has sophisticated common sense going on. Yeah, the cool kids table doesn't sound so intriguing, isn't it? So, yeah, we got into detail about how Krennic got ahead and manipulated the Ursos to basically provide the needs to use the super laser. We also got how the Ursos have managed to escape with Saw Gerrera to planet Lamu. Yeah. We also got legacy worlds. We got some world building from time to time. There's not really that much action in the story since this is more political, technological based, and involving the construction and eventual foundation of the Death Star. Now, in the old canon, the Legends canon, it pretty much happens the same way to an extent, except there's no version of Krennic. They do have Geonosians build the Death Star. It's initially built by them. And how the super weapon laser is actually explained in Battlefront 2, the original, where clone troopers when you're told to do this mission to collect this energy sample from Megiddo, that planet where Kiamundi is killed, to collect it and bring it to to the future Emperor Palpatine. Yeah, and back to Palpatine, like, he doesn't show up at all in this. Surprisingly, I was sure he would show up to give his support and whatnot to the Death Star creation. So I was surprised by that. But yeah, we also got some new characters that pretty much helped out with moving the story along. And like, let's see, I'm trying to remember his name. Obit, like, he's part of this storyline. Like, he came in a little bit later in it, and this all and like how I just really like Krennic in this because he was kind of awesome as this slime ball guy, except Tarkin's the king of all of them. And we get the interaction between them indirectly. They don't really talk to each other directly. They more like use other people to get what they want out of this and to undermine the other. Yeah. And we get that in Rogue One, but here was one, and Palpatine, I don't get why they called him Sheev. He was never called that in the old canon. What was the point of giving him a name that no one ever called, a first name that no one ever called him by? Not even when he was senator, they never, like, whereas, like, at the time he was, quote, friends with Princess, with Queen Amidala, so with Padme, so wouldn't it make sense that Padme from time to time would call him Sheev as like old friends, but they never did that in the old canon, so I don't get why, since some of the old canon stuff lives on in the new canon, I don't get why Sheev Palpatine was given that. Like, I'm used to calling him Palpatine. I'm not used to calling him Sheev Palpatine. It doesn't sound as intimidatingly threatening than just Palpatine or Emperor Palpatine or Chancellor Palpatine. Calling him Sheev just kind of seems defeating the purpose here. So yeah, like the other thing that's a pet peeve more than Callus is the fact that Callus, Guardians of the Wills, and Rebel Rising are the first of most likely many future Rogue One books that take place that involves the Rogue One cast that will explain to us what the backstories are as opposed to the movie telling us what the backstories were. Like, they don't need to have booklets of stuff to explain the backstory. I wasn't asking for that. But can we get some more context, some more character development? I mean, like, I was really interested in Cassian saying, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. And I'm like, okay, that's actually kind of interesting. Like, even everyone's favorite Jyn Erso kind of was a passive character, and she was pretty much not really kept, like, well, she did get some character development and some flashback moments. We don't really learn that much about her as a person. We just learn her about how she became this, but we never learn her as a person. We don't get time to sit down, talk, and discuss something like, okay, like we don't need to learn everything about her, like how was her life and whatnot. We just need to learn key important moments of how she became who she was at the beginning of the movie and why she had trust issues with people. But yeah, Pago the Lesser, he was in this book a lot. Tarkin, well, he's an instigation of Krennic, who proposes a non-research position for Galen at Halic Hypercom. And yeah, we also see Galen, Lyra, and Jyn. Like, this is Jyn's first true appearance in the new canon. This book was released a month before Rogue One, but yeah, I'm trying my best to explain this. Like, yeah, and I listened to the audiobook. It seemed like, okay, I could be wrong, but it went from Pago the Lesser to escaping Coruscant and leaving the project after the drones pretty much betray after you order the drones, the Geonosians, to basically dismantle stuff in order to distract Krennic. But yeah, it went from there to then suddenly, oh, it's the Empire. Now I could be wrong and missed a scene, but yeah, I feel like there was a time skip. But like, we got the transition. We also got a very big amount of transition for clone troopers to stormtroopers. The clone troopers being eventually, quote, fired. Oh dear God, I still hate that idea. Like, really? the clone troopers were your best soldiers ever created, and you fired all 5 million of them. Oh my god. I will never understand that logic. But that's a different video that I've already discussed about Star Wars Rebels Season 2. And we also learn how the Empire, like, basically robbed from planets, drained them of their resources, turned them into basically giant wastelands, legacy worlds even, that were fully protected by the government, that revealed that, oh yeah, it's not protected by the government. And we also see Tarkin's ruthlessness as highest. Yeah, it's kind of it's not surprising. But Obit reveals all of his recent activity with the Ursos and Krennic, and Tarkin decides to use Obit to strike back at Krennic, so yeah. Oh man. So Orson Krennic, he was pretty much one of the main characters in this. Like, he has an issue with Tarkin. Tarkin has an issue with him. The Ursos would later have an issue with Krennic and the Empire as a whole. And Jin being the final character we get a point of view from, that actually felt fitting, especially since Jin Urso has this big plan. Since there's this big plan for her for Rogue One, so it felt fitting that it ends with her giving a point of view talk. The audiobook version was presented by Jonathan Davis, voiced by him, and I really liked the audiobook. Like, that was like, I'm gonna be honest, that was my first audiobook. Yeah, I've either read the books and whatnot, or just looked up on Wikipedia for Star Wars stuff. But yeah, I have never listened to an audiobook because I think I did one so many years ago when they were just basically telling us the story instead of us feeling it, being immersed into the story. So I'm glad that audiobooks have really come along in recent in years now. Since we got a movie like quality stuff going on in our heads that we can actually picture it. Just close your eyes and just imagine the movie happening with sound effects, with voice act, with actual emotion from the characters, especially critics yelling out "Galen!" And this is just a pet peeve. This is also a nitpick. I still don't get the whole calling him Galen, because when I think of Galen, I think of Galen Merrick from Force Unleashed, which is an old Legends canon character. Yeah. But yeah, this novel was pretty good. It was pretty much showing the art of deception, manipulation, treason, backstabbing, politics, all that good stuff. And I'm surprised they didn't rely on the established legacy characters of Palpatine and Vader. They just mentioned them. We got old characters like the Vice Chancellor guy, whose name completely escapes me, Maz Amida. I'm pretty sure I got that wrong. He was pretty much the only known character that wasn't Saw Gerrera or Pago the Lesser to take up some time on there. Well, I get why he was in charge of that. He's the Vice Chancellor and subsequent de facto. He's the basically a part of Emperor Palpatine's administration. So, yeah, if you want the audiobook, I put a link in the description. You can go to www.audible.com/neorealityent, short for entertainment, and you can get a free audiobook and all that. It comes from any audiobook you want with 1 credit, and you get a 30 days free trial if you want to approve of it. And there's over 180,000 audiobooks and coming. And yeah, just go to that link if you want to check it out and want to read the story or any other Star Wars story. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to for more.